So you're in a situation where you're injured on the job. Let's say you're in construction, and unfortunately you become severely injured. And you go to the hospital and you're going along with your claim and trying to get coverage. And you come to find out that your employer does not have workers' compensation coverage. What do you do? Hi, I'm Joe Miller, workers' compensation attorney in Virginia and North Carolina, and we're here to talk to you today about that exact situation, particularly in Virginia, because in Virginia we have something called the Uninsured Employers Fund, and that is the subject of today's very important and special video. We do have in Virginia a fund that is set aside for situations where your employer was obligated to carry workers' compensation insurance and failed to do so. So the first question in any situation where you have a claim like this, which may fall under the Uninsured Employers Fund, is, was your employer obligated to carry workers' compensation insurance? So that's the first question that has to be answered. And that can be a complex question, but the basic inquiry is going to be this. Did your employer have more than 3 employees that were regularly employed in the business? And what I mean by employees is, I mean people over which that employer had control, number one, and also were you in a situation where your employer provided all the equipment, maybe your employer provided uniforms, required you to wear uniforms, had rules that you were required to follow, that sort of thing. Now, if you are a subcontractor, meaning you're just somebody who was hired, you did an estimate, let's say you're a painter, and you did an estimate and you said, yeah, I'll charge you $1,500 to paint this area. You came in with your own equipment, did your own thing. Okay, you're not an employee of that company. Okay, you're a subcontractor. So this does not apply to you. This only applies to situations where you know for a fact that you have an employer. It's not just construction. There's other employers too that try to get away with this because, let's face it, it's expensive to carry workers' compensation insurance. And not only that, but once you have employees, then you got to start thinking about, well, do I have to pay taxes? Do I have to pay payroll taxes and all this kind of stuff? So, and the fact that you got, by the fact that you got paid cash, which is we see a lot also, doesn't mean you don't have a claim. A lot of employers will pay cash. That's okay. You can still be an employee in that situation. So again, remember the things that are important are, number one, did your employer have at least 3 employees besides the main person? Okay, so you and 2 other folks and the main guy who runs the business. That's what there has to be, regularly employed, and they have to have control over what you do every day. Say, okay, y'all need to be here at 7 o'clock every day in the morning. I expect you to show up. I expect you to follow the rules, and if you don't, you can get fired. Okay, if you don't have that situation, then your employer is probably not obligated. Okay, so let's assume that you do have a situation where we're able to show all that. It's pretty clear you have an employment situation, but they weren't carrying workers' compensation insurance. What do you do then? So what you have to do then is you have to file a claim with the workers' compensation insurance. And I'm here to tell you, unfortunately, in Virginia, it is a long and arduous process. Very, very rarely will the Uninsured Employers Fund agree to anything. They will make you go to a hearing, not because they have necessarily a valid defense, but especially if you have a large claim, you have a serious injury, the Attorney General, who's, it's all under the auspices of the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia will require that they make you prove your claim. So you're really going to want to get an attorney for this if it turns out you have an Underinsured Employers Fund claim. How do you know if you have one? Well, what ends up happening is when you file the claim and you file all your medical stuff with the commission, they're going to go ahead and investigate whether or not it looks like there's an uninsured Employers Fund case. If there is, they're going to refer it to an attorney who handles these sorts of things. And there are attorneys throughout the state who generally work for and are sent cases on and handle cases on behalf of the Uninsured Employers Fund, and they will defend the case. And of course, your employer will, you're going to proceed also against the employer, even though they can't defend, even though they have may not have any money to pay the claim, they're still brought into the claim. And the lawyer, though, will be not for the employer. The lawyer will be really for the uninsured fund. And this can create some problems too, which is beyond the scope of this video. But I strongly suggest that if you do get in a situation where it looks like you're not clear if your employer had workers' compensation insurance or they didn't have workers' compensation insurance, please give us a call, especially if you're severely injured. We can help you determine what your situation is, whether it's something worth pursuing. If unfortunately, like I said before, if there's only one employee or just you and the guy, and there's maybe he brings in a subcontractor occasionally, you're not going to have a claim because he was not required to carry workers' compensation insurance. Now, if your employer is large, and that means they have a lot of money, have a lot of equipment, and they still didn't have workers' compensation insurance, this can present other opportunities because what they have done in Virginia is they have waived any defense that they might have if you decide to sue them. Normally, you cannot sue your employer in Virginia. Normally, you are barred from suing your employer by the Workers' Compensation Act. People ask this question all the time. But if your employer was, let's say they're a big company, and this rarely happens, by the way, because most big companies are smart enough to understand they better buy workers' compensation coverage, okay, or they're going to end up in this situation. Because if you're a big company, you got a lot of money, and you don't have workers' compensation insurance, and somebody gets hurt on the job, and there's any fault involved, you're going to be able to nail these suckers. And not only that, but they waive all defenses. So they're in trouble. So if you're in that situation, you definitely want to give us a call because you have one heck of a personal injury claim. Okay, that is rare. You should know that is rare because big employers, like I said, are smart enough not to put themselves in that situation. It's the little guys, unfortunately, the the smaller employers of people that have 3 or 4 or 5 people working for them that are trying to, paying people in cash, trying to slide under the radar. Those are the cases that unfortunately end up in the UEF, or Uninsured Employers Fund system. We handle these cases all the time, and we can certainly help you with yours. I thank you for watching this. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you've been hurt in an accident at work in either Virginia or North Carolina, and you have any questions about this situation at all, anything having to do with your workers' comp claim, please don't hesitate to call us. The number on the screen, and give us a call. We'll be happy to help you. Again, this is Joe Miller, workers' compensation attorney. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Adios.